In this lecture, we're going to talk about portraiture. And this is a really great, funny portrait that Ludwig Karim took of the actor John Malkovich. So portrait photography was one of the earliest forms of photography. Before traditional photography, there was a type of photography called daguerreotype. And basically what it is, it's produced as a daguerreotype is a positive direct print. So what happens is you have a light sensitive piece of film that got put in the camera and then exposed. And so you then put that exposed piece of paper in a chemical bath to help complete the process. I actually did that when I was a child in grade school. We used a shoebox, and you put a hole in it, and you put the light sensitive piece of paper in the back of the box, and then you pointed it at something with a light source, and it would, over a very long amount of time, eventually expose it. So what had to happen in these daguerreotypes was that the person being exposed on the print had to hold still for a very, very long time. And so often they would create these chairs that would hold people in place, and they were very, very uncomfortable. And so that's why when you see this photo, this daguerreotype that was shot in 1855, they look very still. And it's because they had to hold still for a very long time. And so you don't see people smiling, and you can see a little bit of blurriness here where I guess maybe she moved her hand, but they were sitting in chairs that were very, very rigid and prevented them from moving. And so that was the origin of portrait photography. And over time, obviously it improved. It's actually one of the most common forms of photography. There are a whole bunch of different things you can do. What we consider the best portrait photographers are those who can capture someone's character. And here obviously they're being silly and having fun, and what a great photo as a result. So there are 8 fundamental different styles of portrait photography: traditional, environmental, candid, glamour, lifestyle, surreal, conceptual, and abstract. And we're now going to look at those. And that photo of the young girl there, it's really, really beautiful. That is considered a traditional portrait. So when we talk about traditional portraiture, we're talking about the face of the subject being the main element. Usually the subject is looking directly at the camera, as you see in all of these. You can do a 2/3 of the body, as we've done here. You can just do what is called a headshot, or you can do the entire body of the individual that you're taking a photo of. Portraiture photography does not have to be a person. It can be an animal. Then you can argue it could be anything that has a face. Those of you who took me for DMPT 1000 know that we talk about pareidolia, where you see faces in patterns. And I personally am so far outside the box, I would consider that portraiture, but not traditional portraiture. It's going to fit more under abstract and surreal portraiture. Very traditional. This is also a daguerreotype taken a long, long time ago. This is not a daguerreotype. It's a sepia print in brown, taken negative, exposed. But it is in the flavor and the vein of a daguerreotype of a Native American woman in her dress. Now, normally the person looks at the camera, but in her culture, in the Hindu culture, women are generally in these types of traditional poses, not looking at the camera. So that's why she's looking off to the side. And I think it actually makes it for a really beautiful photo. But it's still traditional in the sense that it's a headshot. She's facing the camera. She's, I believe, this is her wedding dress, her wedding garb. It's very beautiful. But she's not looking directly at the camera. You can still see her eyes, however. So this fits into traditional. When we talk about environmental portraiture, we're talking about people in their element. The chef on the left, the painter in his studio, that actually looks like Jackson Pollock. You believe that's Jackson Pollock. The waitress in the restaurant, right? So the surroundings are used to complement the subject and emphasize the character of the person. The subject and the setting are chosen both by the photographer. You set where you want the subject to be in the environment. This one obviously on the left is meant to be humorous because his head's floating above the plates. This portrait of, I'm convinced that's Jackson Pollock, looks just like him. This portrait of Jackson Pollock, and he also used to do that. He used to have 8,000 brushes in his paint, which is really bad for the brush. But yeah, I'm not going to criticize Jackson Pollock. Here he is with his paints, and then the waitress or the business owner. I don't necessarily know that she's a waitress. That's a great costume for or outfit for the waitress. She could be the business owner, right? This could be her pie shop. I think that's her, no, sandwich shop, her lunch shop. So she may be the business owner who is having her portrait taken in her business for advertisement. Okay. So what you're doing is you're setting up based on your mission. You are setting up your subject in their environment to be able to tell the story of them in their environment. So the girl is selling objects at a event and she looks bored. Right? Little kid probably wants to be out somewhere else, doesn't want to be working. Obviously this was not meant to sell anything. It's just a shot someone took at an event, showing her and probably wanting to show her bored. I've taken some pictures of children at these kinds of events. They clearly, wish they were somewhere else, quiet. Here, this woman is cooking, and it's showing a portrait of her in her environment. This is an event. I've forgotten what this is. It's a celebratory event. And it's showing the men doing the event in the environment in which they're in. Candid portraiture is when you are taking a picture in which the person you're photographing doesn't know you're taking their picture. Some other people will just refer to this as just flat out street photography because this is generally where it's taken. You're just walking down the street, you take pictures. It's opposed to environmental photography because you're not setting this up. This is not staged like portrait photography is. I mean, environmental photography is. Environmental portraiture is intentionally set up to capture the subject in their environment. This is just, you're out there and you're just candidly taking shots. Here is the law on taking people's photos. If you and the subject are in a public place, a street, a sidewalk, a public park, you are able to take any and every photo you see without exception, and they cannot, well, they can sue you for it, but they cannot win. You still have to defend yourself, so there could be that expense. But just know that in general, that if you are, and trust me, I've had this happen where I was at an event, and I took pictures, and in the street, we were all in the street gearing up for a festival, for a parade, and I'm a photographer for an organization, and I was taking their photos. And then, of course, they posted them, and one of the people got upset, said, "You can't post my photo." And I said, "Legally, I can." Or they couldn't, my shot. Told me to take them down. anyway, so know that you can. If you are in the street and they're in the street, they literally cannot stop you from taking and posting their photo. However, that said, know that it's best not to upset people. And as much as possible, just let them know what you're doing with the photo. If you make money off of it, that's a different situation. I was doing this for a nonprofit, and that is a law that varies from state to state. Some states say that you can make money off of it because it's a photo taken in a public place. Others say you have to compensate the model. So the best thing you can do in that case, have a release form, have them sign it, and pay them money right there. And that holds you harmless from any lawsuit. I'm not saying they can't sue you and you don't have to defend yourself, but that piece of paper will prevent you from losing any money should they later come back and try to sue you for additional funds. You've already paid them, even if it's $1, and they have signed a release. And this is why most people don't shoot people, and I don't sell anything that I shoot of other people. Street photography. It's great. I mean, you just random shot. And what works so well about this is the woman is just an interesting subject. And they look lost. It's like they just got off the bus and they look lost. And it's just a great composition from the fact that there's a story to this. And it's definitely an interesting story. Okay, they are in a private establishment, but I didn't take this. The photographer standing on the sidewalk, looking through a big giant picture window and photographing them, legal. They can be photographed if you can see them in a private place from a public place, okay? Very interesting shot. Glamour portraiture refers to portraits where emphasis is given to highlight the appeal of the subject, right? Usually supermodels, fashion photography, photos that advertise clothing, hair, jewelry, makeup, those types of things. Just as each one of these people in the photo, you know, obviously he's being photographed for his suit. She's probably being photographed for her pearls because they really stand out on her dark skin and her dark dress and a dark background. You see those pearls. My guess is that's the subject. And then here, her tattoos. It's probably a tattoo artist. Even though your eye initially goes to her eye, this is definitely about the tattoos. All about the glamour. Now, some people might say, how's that glamour photography? She's making a face. It's beautiful. She's beautiful. Her face is beautiful. The whole thing is beautiful. It's glamorous. And I know she's grimacing, but it's still glamour because it's all about glamour. I mean, it fits. It's the very definition and the epitome of glamour. Beauty is sort of the essential component. If it's beautiful, it's got a glamour component to it, even though her makeup is running down her face. Okay, we're going to stop here and pick up in the next video.